Good morning, everybody, and welcome to today's webinar. Today's webinar, we have HRLocker ourselves, and we have Intuity, our partners, with us as well. And what we're going to do today is we're going to be going through how you can take your data, specifically your HR data, and put it into your, to start analyzing it and making it really work for your company. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Christelle Wren, and I'm the Chief Marketing Officer here at HRLocker. And then with us today, we have Michael Cox. So Michael, we're delighted to have you with us today. And really one of the things we're going to focus on is, you know, we have all this data, we have all these platforms that we use for HR, for our business in terms of invoicing or payroll or customer feedback, all these things, our CRM platforms. And it's important that when you have this data that you can take it and really make it work for your company, and maybe use it to inform your decisions if you're growing, or if you're deciding how to take this data and make it really work for your company. Because there's a lot of, I suppose, key crucial business information that you can take from that data. So what Michael's going to go through today with us is yes, in HRLocker we do have that reporting aspect. But how you can take the HRLocker database and take it and put it into your Power BI to start really making it work for your company. And one of the things when we looked at the data was, you know, yes, we're a HR software platform, but who's an expert in this field? Who can take this data and really, you know, and who can we work with to make sure that that we can give you some great insights into the data. So that's why we reached out to Michael, who works with Intuity. And so Michael, if you'd like to introduce yourself to everybody.
Hi folks, yeah, I'm Michael Cox. I'm head of business solutions at Intuity Technolgies. So we've been a partner with HRLocker for probably coming up on over 2 years now at this point. So we're delighted that when they came to us last week to kind of assist and help on this and take a look.
Yeah, so one of the things, I suppose the main question I'm going to start with, Michael, is you know, we reached out to you guys because you're good at the data, you're good at using it. I like what your approach to it, that you're taking it to kind of help you build your company, and that you're using it for real reasons rather than just producing a spreadsheet that tells you numbers. So how do you, I suppose, how have you used Power BI, but as well as actually the data to inform your business decisions? How's it helped your company grow and be where it is today?
Yeah, Crystal, I think it might be a good idea just for us to just to give everybody who's kind of on the call just a sense of what Power BI is. Like Microsoft produced a lot of really good videos that kind of show this. So there was one I came across that's like 1.5 minutes, and it'll just give people a visual of what I'm talking about in Power BI before we move on into the rest of the content, if that's okay.
Perfect.
So let me press play on this side.
When it comes to data, the faster you can turn this into this, the faster you can understand and use it all to make your business run better. With Microsoft Power BI, you can quickly connect to data, prep it, model and visualize as much or as little as you like, then securely share insights. Even embed it all into your app or website. To get started, download the free Power BI desktop application and hop right in. Soon you'll be connecting to hundreds of data sources on-premise or in the cloud, like Excel, Salesforce, Google Analytics, social networks, even IoT devices to get real-time information, and turning all that data into live interactive visuals. When you get the hang of that, upgrade to Pro. You'll need that to start collaborating freely, creating dashboards that deliver a 360-degree real-time view of your business, control how your data is accessed and used, and to package and deliver your stunning new content to users with apps of their own. The premium version is for really scaling up across larger enterprises and embedding content past your own digital properties without per-user licenses. And one more thing, want it all on mobile so you can react to changes on the fly? Here you go. With Power BI, we make it easy to always be in compliance too, for things like GDPR. Download the free Power BI application today and start turning your data into smarter decisions for your business.
That's perfect. So Mike, we can't take credit for the Microsoft video, but it gives a great overview of what Power BI can do, and that it's not just, what I think is important is that we've moved away from producing spreadsheets that give you numbers and figures. It's how we can take that data, put it into another platform, and work an entire company, an entire business around kind of what information is coming from all your other platforms.
Exactly.
So, yeah. So how have you done that in your company, or how do you do that?
So, well, let me maybe tell a bit of a story, and I'll go through a little bit about Intuity and our evolution. So I have like we've been in business for over 40 years. We were a software company. And we along the way we kind of data security and data structure was always very important to us as a software company. And along the way we met a technical support company, and they were a Microsoft partner, and we kind of partnered up with these guys, and we eventually joined together and we created Intuity Technolgies. So as we did this, we brought in this whole Microsoft solutions piece, and that's kind of when I joined the company back in 2016. And we've started working with building applications, business applications, using the Microsoft platform since for our customers since then. And we've kind of added on other aspects to our business, consultancy, security, and kind of managed print as well. So we're now really, we've become Intuity, a technology partner that's focused on the technology needs for SMEs based mainly in Ireland. So that's kind of how we got to where we got to over the last number of years. And behind that, then I suppose there's the systems that we used and that we implemented. Back in 2017, we made a decision to focus on ConnectWise, which was the ERP system, or the operations system used by most of the MSPs, specifically designed for the business that we were in. And we connected that then to our Xero, our finance system, to allow us to smooth out the invoicing and make the invoicing easy. And then we connected it to our Dynamics instance, so we could, this was our CRM, so we could easily onboard our customers. And then back in 2018, we found as we grew, we needed the secure, confidential portal that we had for HRLocker on our HR data. Like the next step then for us was just to kind of concentrate on getting, we had built our data sources, our primary data sources, and we'd connected them so that we could, they were talking to each other. And then we kind of concentrated on the inputs, so we could get data in from our website and from emails, and we use Receipt Bank to take care of paper, getting rid of paper into our finance system, invoicing and things like that. And then we did a bit of processing with them, and we used other systems, and we connected these main data sources to some of the other systems for, direct debits and auto credit control and customer satisfaction, and then remote control of desktops. So they're like basically established our systems, and then we built the controls out. And now we're kind of moving on to the next phase, which is kind of overlaying. We're using Power BI on multiple different data sources within our infrastructure, if you like, to allow us to gain insights from that data, combine the data from the different systems that we use, and to get towards predictive, to get really good information out that we can use in the business. And we're delighted when HRLocker came to us last week and said, we're going to make the data that's in the system available to you to use on Power BI. So it feeds right into what we've been doing for the last while.
Yeah, and I think that's, for me, is the benefit of Power BI, is that even though you're not using the one system, you can take data from every different system and put it all together, so you can compare it and create reports that are coming from different data sources. But I suppose my question is how do you get there? So where do you start?
Yeah, so again, I suppose we're using Power BI as a tool to identify that. But the key thing is this idea of a data warehouse. So, like a data warehouse is a specific database that you create. That you can store data from multiple sources in. So from in our perspective, whether it's HRLocker or whether it's ERP or CRM or other data sources that we have in the organization, we can extract that data from them, take a read-only copy, transform them a little bit to tidy it up and make it consistent, and then load it up into a data warehouse that allows us gives us this data source that's a single place to store all of this data that we can then build out our reports and our visualizations and our business intelligence and insights. And then we share the business. The Power BI is the one reporting dashboard tool that we use across the business, whether it's in the operation side in service desk or in the finance side. So that's the idea of a data warehouse. You take the data out, you store it, you stage it, and then you kind of build your reporting on that. And
so that's really, I suppose, Michael, that's step one for, obviously, that's what we did with you guys. We rang you and said, we can do this data warehousing, and can you have a look and see how so we can provide that data for you. So step one for a company is to see, can their systems provide a data warehouse for them to be able to plug into an overall reporting system.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, we most of these key systems now, they'll allow you to get that extract feed easily out of the data and into a data warehouse, and you can set them up as APIs, which would be a kind of a real-time feed that pushes the stuff out, and then rather than using the reporting on the transactional system, you're using the reporting from the data warehouse.
And then I suppose that kind of gives you, so we've done our data warehouses, we've got all our systems in place, and then step two, we're now plugging them all into Power BI, but that's only step two, because step three, we're going to be talking about, well, how do you actually create those reports? And but I think that the main benefit is that who has access then to your Power BI reporting, because you can do it from a top level in terms of your senior management team, or so it doesn't have to just be your HR person who owns that data anymore.
Yeah, well, I think you mentioned a couple of things there. Like I'm going to do a demo. I've been working with your dev guys, and they've given me access to Intuity's HRLocker data, and I've been able to just in talking with our HR manager, kind of look around and give a demo, so give people a sense of what we can get out of it. But just even before I kind of go to that, I wouldn't mind just like sometimes I'm asked the question, like why would you use a data warehouse or what? And generally when I get involved with our customers or somebody comes to me, they're getting overwhelmed with Excel databases, and they've got data in non-structured ways, or just the reporting systems that are in the legacy systems that they're using just aren't up to scratch. So like there's that over reliance on spreadsheets. That's the first indicator that somebody should be considering a data warehouse or Power BI or getting into the business intelligence game. And then like what are the benefits? Like if I was to ask what are the benefits, it's going to enable you to make better decisions. Your better reporting is going to allow you to make better decisions. It's going to save you time, and it's going to give you this idea of business intelligence, which is like, so insights that come from the data that isn't, it's at a higher level than what you'll see from a report. It's beyond data. It's towards something that's dynamic, that suggests the next action, the next appropriate action. And the big nirvana for big data is this idea of getting predictive, using machine learning to look at major data sources that allows you to kind of get predictive, so you can make a decision on what you'll buy based on what you think your sales are going to be, based on what you can see in the data. So that whole idea of moving towards predictive is where we're trying to get to, I suppose. And
I suppose that's the key thing, Michael, is that it's we're not talking here basic Excel spreadsheets. We're talking about taking your data and making it work for you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So and I'm heading towards a demo here now, so I'm going to stop PowerPoint slides. But I like we talked last week. We kind of we became aware that we could get this done, and one of my first conversations was to talk with my HR head of HR, Aoife, and basically say what like if I could tell you that I can go and dig into the data here and develop something, you know, some dashboards that are a little bit more visual and that can surface the data that's buried in our HRLocker system, what would you like? And you know, she talked about kind of just a better view of our workforce, like a better view of the leave and the CPD. These are elements that we use inside HRLocker. So what could we do in terms of getting these things out? So so that's what we did, and I've spent a couple of days or a couple of hours over the last week or so digging in to try and see what I can see. So if it's okay, I'm going to jump into demo mode and now to PowerPoint, if that's all right.
Yeah, and actually, and while you're doing that, Michael, I'll just say that we actually have Aoife with us today here as well. And at the end of all these webinars, we always have questions and answers. So if anybody has any specific HR questions for Aoife in regards to what reporting, you know, why you could show some of the reports and things like that, she's delighted to take your questions at the end, and both myself and Michael, obviously, as well.
Yeah, super. So this might be a little bit small, so you'll have to look in a bit on it. But I'm not able. It's not a browser, so I'm not really able to change the resolution, if you like. But this is what it likes. You seen the video of from Microsoft. So you generally you're going to get a data source, and there's you know, there's lots of different data sources that are out of the box from Microsoft. But so the data source coming from HRLocker is just an SQL database warehouse that they've kind of extracted, and then they you know, you're able to import these and you see them as tables. And once you get the tables, you can go down into the fields, and then from the fields you can kind of create these visualizations of your data. So, and then, you know, the way Power BI works is as you move around and you select, like say, the males, and this here is the distribution of our staff ages or whatever, and then you can see our start years and months, and you can look at them by different departments. So you can build up interactive dashboards where you can drill down, and you could even go down to the data that's behind this, because behind the visualizations there's this data source that you're looking at. So when we look at employees, you know, we can see all of the data, and there's different columns that we can use. And part of what I've done is transform. So I've made some transformations to the data set, but once I've done them once, then I can just refresh the data and it comes directly back in again. So I get the latest data in from HRLocker, but the transformations I've done are saved so that it automatically gets changed. So it's very user doable. It's you know, it does a lot of this stuff automatically. It can take the links that are between these different elements or these different tables that are in the system, and allows you quickly to model you know, your data and have a look at what the data might look like, and see if you can build insights. So like today, for example, on my own team, when I look at this and I look at my own team, I find that, yeah, I have a young team, and a lot of them have joined in the last year or so. So it's definitely the you know, you can see insights depending on what's in your data. So this was just a first cut at workforce demographics. We also had a cut at leave, and just what could we do again, like how many leave days do I have for mine, and booking days that are booked and carried over, so you could kind of see how I'm running and how different departments are running against each other, and again how the leave is consumed during the year. And just, you know, this would be useful to, you know, maybe to be shared at a management meeting or whatever. Just I know, like during the pandemic, we had some conversations about, like, well, how are we running against last year, and to make sure that we didn't carry a leave bubble into, you know, later in the year. So you get to the last end of the year and you haven't really consumed the amount of leave that you want to consume. So that's you know,
that is an issue at the moment with the pandemic that we're in, that people are cancelling their leave. So it is something you need to be aware of.
I think that's true. Yeah, we definitely dealt with that as an organization. So just moving on quickly, just the CPD. So again, taking the CPD elements out of HRLocker, we can quickly kind of look at whatever you've got, the delivery methods or the provider, or when the leave is, what's happening in the month, and what type of leave it is, or the different certificates. So again, you can see the data that's in your system, and you can bring it in, and you can make it useful to the management team to look at. Well, say for example, again, if I go to my own department, you'd expect it to be a lot of Microsoft. A lot of the training time is spent on Microsoft. So something like that is fairly useful. As I say, we've only had a bit of time to work on this, and it's really a demo, but we're really looking forward to kind of drilling down a bit deeper with Aoife to build out these dashboards into something that's just a bit more nuanced, and a bit to work with Aoife to get exactly the data that she's looking for.
Perfect.
Similarly, whether it's recruitment data, any of the data elements that are in your system, you can kind of work to to build. There's lots of different types of visualizations, and there's lots of different ways to transpose the system. So once you've kind of worked on this, is Power BI desktop. So once I've worked on this, then I'm pressing the publish button, and it's been pushed up into my my Office 365. So and this is how I'm sharing it with the organization. So I go into my Power BI, and I go into my workspace, my business solutions workspace, and I've kind of shared this with whoever I want to share with. So they don't go into the Power BI desktop. That's for the person who's creating it. But it's the same idea. I've now published this report and this dashboard that it's easy for whoever in the organization that I've decided to share it with can see this data and interact with it just like I can. So they can get those insights. So this is the way we consume it. So like as I say, more and more, we're seeing more and more elements that we're bringing into Power BI as our interface to the data warehouse that we have in the background.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think that's it. It's taking your data, really making it work for you. If I can ask Aoife, in terms of the actual reports that you chose for this, what was kind of the main thing that you were trying to get out of it, or what out of reports as a HR person, what do you want to see?
I
$1 million question for you.
$1 million question. There's a lot of things, but as Mike has touched on, it's taking the data that we've now collated, but turning it into information that then can become, insight. So, we've been on a journey now, I guess, with our data. So we maybe 2.5 years ago, our data was in Excel sheets, or maybe didn't exist in a formal way. It may have just been anecdotal, if you like, or within emails, or different people holding different elements of it. So with implementing HRLocker, that was, I guess, stage one, bringing it all into one location and as far as we could. So, we have our recruitment information, we have our performance information, we have our employee demographic information, if you like. And now this is the next step for us in terms of, turning that data into information and gaining insights from it. So some of the key things that I'm looking for around that is, what insight can I get, or what information can I share with the rest of the company, with the management team specifically, on the performance of our people strategy, for example. So again, that can be something that's often challenging for a HR function, is how do you demonstrate value, or how do you demonstrate progress on your HR initiatives or your strategy. So this Power BI is the perfect tool to do that, and that's where I know it will significantly help us with decisions we make as a result. Whether that's looking at how do our employee engagement initiatives impact our performance, So we'll be able to combine our performance data and our engagement surveys, and we'll be able to create insight into that. Or it might be looking at, you know, from a skills perspective, you know, where is our next area of focus, or where do we have a gap? So there's so many insights that I know we'll be able to gain from this that are just going to make, as I said, the quality of our decisions going forward so much stronger.
Yeah, and I think that's the key, isn't it? Is that we have this data, and it's time for HR to really kind of take that data and make it work, see the benefit for the company, I think is the key.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Mike, do you want to show your slide there, because this is the bit that I'm excited about?
Yeah, like a lot of, like, as Aoife said, we're kind of on a journey, and she said it very nicely. But I mean, when she joined the company, we just, like, we didn't have a central repository. We didn't have our data in the one place, and she's kind of come in with the strategy, and then I've been trying to work with her and the rest of the leadership and the management team to bring this data elements along. And I kind of look at it in terms of you know, a maturity model of, you know, you kind of build up on your capabilities and your systems, and you move towards where you're trying to get to on the business intelligence. So, like, we're not there yet, and we're not. It's not even across all of our systems and all of our paces. But at least we're clear as to where we're trying to get to. So it started just with data, and it moves on to, you know, data, and then information becomes knowledge, and then knowledge becomes wisdom, and, you know, all that sort of thinking of can you move up the maturity model, and like a data warehouse and business intelligence is right at the end of that. That's what you're looking for.
And I think that's the key, is that when you can take all your data, your business data, but let's talk about HR data, you can take that and it can inform you perhaps of, you know, at the moment, our biggest problem with remote working is not that people are underperforming, it's that people are working additional hours, or they're working too many hours, so that you can see those issues before they happen, rather than that you're I think that's the key for data for me, is that you're not reactive to things anymore. You can probably look at predicting that they're going to happen.
Yeah, that's a great example. Like, I mean, because, like, say for example, we'd in some of the time stuff that we would have would be you know, our staff's time, effort against customers and things like that is tracked in one of the other systems. It's tracked in ConnectWise, but like the NPS piece might be tracked in a slightly different system. But using Power BI, we can bring that together, and we can track that and combine it with the stuff you know, the information that we have in HRLocker as well. So it's that combining of data sets which is really key.
Yeah, I think so. And then the other thing, I suppose for me, what I'm most intrigued with is that predictive side of it, where you can inform your decision making of when I should be hiring, you know, how long on average, you know, do I have a department that's aging? And then one of the things that I suppose it's coming into Ireland in April, but really for companies over 250 is that gender pay gap report as well. So, you know, just to make sure that you're staying on top of it, that you can see that data and that it's really informing your decisions really going forward, which is key. Yeah. And I think if anybody wants to type in some questions there, either for Michael or Aoife, I'm happy to take a question as well, but I'm sure that they are more learned than me on this topic. We'll be happy to go through any. And you know, really it's a project that we were excited to do with Intuity, and to look at I suppose how do we take the flat data in HRLocker that's really just giving you know, how many hours people worked, how many holidays people have, and to take that to the next level of making it smart data, which is the key. So Michael, if somebody was to, I suppose the very first step that somebody needs to take, how do they go about starting the Power BI project, I suppose, in their company? Yeah,
well, as the video at the start kind of showed, like, Power BI it's a self-service business intelligence. It's user doable from Microsoft's perspective. You can just jump in if you've got any sort of data skill sets. If you're an Excel expert, you could just dive into Power BI. But like, I suppose we would suggest that you know, we'd be a good guide to help you think about your structured data, and you know, we've been down the road for ourselves, and that's what my team does for our customers and in the projects that we do. So we'd love to help anybody that's listening to figure out how best to jump into data warehousing or Power BI or business intelligence. You know, structured data is what we do, and yeah, so I don't know whether that answered your question, Chris.
No, it does. And thank you, Michael, because we did come to you in a flurry to say, I have this super idea. I want to put all this data into data warehouse, and you were very, very helpful to us to make that the data come alive. So really, I would thoroughly recommend Michael as well, because he was able to listen to our ramblings of what we wanted. So, appreciate it. And so the next question is in regards to cost and for data warehousing. So I mean, for anybody who's looking to do that with their HRLocker data, if you want to, it is kind of a scaling cost in terms of how big your company is. So if you want to come and talk to either myself or Sinead, as usual, we can talk about the project of kind of starting with your data warehousing. And then exactly like Michael said, if you have somebody in your company who is, you know, very au fait with Power BI, you know, that's great. And if not, I would certainly recommend contacting Intuity or Michael to discuss, I suppose. And I think, Aoife, I think you'd agree with me, is number one, you need to decide when you're looking at those reports is what's the purpose, you know, because we can create any report you want. You know?
Yeah, or what's the question I'm trying to answer is probably a good place to start as well. You know, but I think the beauty of something like Power BI is that it is extremely flexible, and you know, you can cut it a lot of different ways. You know, once your data is there in the data warehouse, you know, you can do so much with it. But you do absolutely, you need to consider, you know, what kind of insight am I trying to gain, and you know, you may need to spend a bit of time thinking about how do I build my data. Maybe it's incomplete, but if you know what your end game is, if you know what you're trying to work towards, then that makes it so much easier.
Yeah. And that's the truth, is you've got to get to that end. You need to kind of have that end game in sight, I suppose.
I'd add, Crystal, like one of the things that like we've only kind of began our journey with Power BI and HRLocker, and we're gonna spend a bit more time now that we've got access to the data, and you know, it's likely that we'll develop something like a template or an accelerator that would be useful maybe to some of your clients at some point, that like and any of the key insights that I get from Aoife in answering any of her questions will be something that might be of benefit or useful to the other HRLocker users.
Yeah, and I think so. I think a lot of the standard HR reporting will be, you know, it'll be kind of across the board in terms of industry, but then some which would be great, and you guys be really able to help that in terms of the template, and then we can work with people, or yourselves can work with people in regards to, okay, so we've got the standard reporting, how do I build on that and do more with it? I have another question here, and Michael, I think this is for you, but Aoife, happy to, is it a technical question? But is there any particular data center that most companies want analytical data from?
Is there any particular data center?
Yeah. This is what varied, would it, Michael?
Yeah, like so like the key systems that people will have is they'll have their ERP system, and they'll have their CRM system, and they might have a finance system, and then, you know, there's other systems that they might have, and all of the modern systems now will always have all the modern systems will have the ability to get the data out, so that you can overlay, you know, whatever your business intelligence tool is. So there's no real system like the data centers. You know, I'm not sure really if I have enough on the call to answer it.
No, and I think if for anyway, the person who asked that question, if they want to maybe contact myself or Michael directly in regards to figuring that out, we'd be happy to work with you. And I think if you were to look at that in terms of, which I think this is what the question is looking for, is you want to take your HR data, maybe you want to compare that to your payroll data, which may be somewhere else, or if you're working customer satisfaction or something like that. So you can compare.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, that would be, you know, I guess the combining of the HR and the payroll data would be definitely a key driver for any HR manager, and understanding that, and again being able to work with it in terms of payroll costs, and how that's going to impact your reward and recognition strategy, for example, tying it all into your performance appraisals. Yeah, again, that's the type of information you need at your fingertips.
Yeah. So I have another question here, and Eve, I think this could be for you, is there a threshold of staff levels where having a HR person becomes a need rather than a nice to have? In a smaller company that might have under 20 people, is there enough data generated that can give those insights, or should a smaller team not allow for closer communication among team members? It's a bit of a mouthful. But I do think we actually discussed this, Michael, yesterday a little bit, and I'm going to preamble Aoife before, if that's okay.
Sure.
It is with your data, there is no, traditionally Power BI or that kind of data analytics have been for larger companies, right? But I think it's more accessible now. And, so I don't think there is that limit anymore, that it's only for companies of 100 plus or whatever it is. Just because you don't have a HR manager, doesn't mean you don't need to have, doesn't mean you can't use that data, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, regardless of whether you have a HR manager, HR function or not, I guess it's, again, the concept is, what can I do with the data I have? What insight can I gain from it? So whether you're the business owner or the manager, what does that data tell me? And that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to make data-driven decisions. In the same way that you'd analyze, customer feedback, or for us, the volume or the type of service ticket that tends to be, come across our desks most often. You're looking to see what can I gain from the information I have, and how does it affect my business going forward? So how does it help me with planning? How does it, affect our direction? What does it tell me about areas we need to focus on or build on? So I think particularly if you're a growing business, having that mindset of being data focused, and making your decisions based on data is something that's crucial. So it's crucial to making the right decisions and helping you plan for your growth, rather than it happening, accidentally, if you like. And sometimes that can be it can be a bit painful, because then you're learning from mistakes maybe, or you're reacting as opposed to having been proactive. So I think that's a big value, again, in the data at your fingertips, and the likes of Power BI is it helps you to be proactive.
And I think, Michael, like in terms of Power BI, you can make it as big, like you can make it this huge monster that does 25,000 reports, or you can just create it that you've got your 3 or 4 reports or one dashboard that you're working on.
Yeah, well, I think like data reporting or data visualization, it's sometimes it's less is more. And it's, if at all possible, if you can keep the data in the systems, rather than, like, once you take the data out, it goes old. So like if the report is sent on, if it's a PDF file and it's sent on, within a week the data is out of date. Whereas if you can get to a point where you in key meetings you're looking at live data that's on a dashboard, as opposed to something that's been printed out, or an Excel spreadsheet that's data, once it leaves the system, it's out of date. Can I just go back to the one about the growth, the last question? I think that there's, like, we see an awful lot of customers that are SMEs that are growing up, like that start with 10 staff or whatever, and they're growing up, and we get involved in conversations with them about structuring their data, and there is some thinking that you can do even before you get to the 20, 30, 40, 50 staff, so that you can make sure that you're using the most appropriate tool, and you're keeping your data structured, and you're thinking about what your data is going to become. And that is a key thing for the smaller companies to be thinking about. So whether it's the HR data, or whether it's your customer data, or your hours and your timesheets and your things like that, all of that stuff is, how do I keep the stuff in a structured way? And at some point later on, you might decide to change to a different tool. You might decide to change to use Power BI or something like that. But it's all about having your data as structured as you can at the time. So that's just what I added that about that one. Sorry.
Yeah, and I think you're dead right, Michael, is that, you know, every single one of us have been in a meeting where we're looking at two different sets of data. Because one was sent last week and then it was all of a sudden updated, and now somebody else has got another PDF and it's different.
What version are you on? What version?
Exactly. So if you're using that screen, you're all on the same page, which is the key. I have one last question, which I think is aimed at yourself, Michael. Is there training available to help with the adoption of Power BI in integration with existing tools and platforms?
Yeah, as Microsoft said at the start, this is free. You can do this without. You can jump in and like there's lots of different free material that's available. There's lots of different videos on YouTube that will talk you through. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a PDF document where I'm going to lay out some of these thoughts, and I'll put in the bottom of that links to some free material that is available. So there's definitely free material. It's really only going to be suitable to somebody who understands data and somebody who's somewhat technical. So for companies who have their IT guys or their systems guys, they should be able to pick that stuff up. Or if you're a talented advanced Excel user, you should probably be able to jump in. But obviously we'd love to talk to anybody who feels that they have a business intelligence requirement, who wants to have a conversation and maybe wants a guide to help them get from where they are now to where they want to get to. So we'd be delighted to talk to anybody about some training, some bespoke training, and I know some of the other training companies do, you know, specific training courses as well that we can kind of link you into. So delighted to. I'll structure this in the PDF, and then I'll follow up with anybody who wants to touch base.
That's great, and you know, as usual with the end of these webinars, Jenny will send out a copy of the webinar to everybody who was here, as well as the download that Michael's been so kind to share with us. And what'll be in there will be Michael's contact details and Judy's contact details if anybody wants to talk to them further in regards to setting up that Power BI. You know, whether it is taking the HRLocker data there, or if you want to start a different journey, on something else. But I think it's a key just to maybe just have a chat and see what way you want to bring it for your company. And then obviously if anybody wants to have a chat with us, you can obviously contact myself or Sinead. We're always happy to chat to see if you want to start looking at that data warehousing or further reporting. But it's been great having Michael and Aoife today. I hope people found it very useful.
Crystal, can I just add there, you know, if there's any company out there and perhaps they don't have a HR function or HR manager, you know, I'm more than happy to have a chat with them and give them some tips or insight into, you know, again, how we're using our data or maybe some areas that they could look at. I'm more than happy to do that.
Yeah, and I would say if you've been great in terms of even just ourselves having a chat around things, so I would certainly recommend if anybody wants to reach out, it's always great to have somebody just to talk about things. So look guys, everything will be sent out. Our next webinar will be on again the last Wednesday of next month. We'll be going into how HRLocker is integrating with Microsoft Teams and how you can use that for your employee engagement. But we'll send information on that closer to the date, and obviously we'll send all this information on as well. So thank you everybody so much, and hopefully everybody found it useful. So talk to you soon.
Thanks, Crystal. Bye.
Thanks folks. Thanks, Crystal.